welcome to the Blythe Starlight channel. My name is Therese Tucker and this is What in the World event readings. And today's event reading, we're going to be talking about October 4th and the test EBS alert that's going to be going out that day across the country. Now, I believe it's happening at about 8:20 a.m. Pacific time, so adjust that for your own time zone. And this isn't such an odd thing, like an EBS alert isn't such an odd thing, but there's more to it than that. And what's interesting about it is that this signal will be broadcast even if your phone is in silent mode, even if your phone, I believe, is on airplane mode. The only way it won't broadcast is if your phone is completely off. And what was interesting is that I was listening to someone who said they had spoke to a FEMA whistleblower, and they were saying that this signal will even go off even if you had a Faraday cage around your phone, which is what a lot of people use to protect from the microwave signals that our phones emit. So even having something around your phone to prevent it from maybe receiving or emitting signals won't even block this, which means that there is a plethora of frequencies that they're going to be emitting that we don't even know. And so those are the facts as I understand them. And there's a lot of other stuff coming up around it. There's a lot of stories going out about the signal being nefarious. Perhaps it could activate something in people. Perhaps it could, scramble people's minds. Some people are saying it'll, create the zombie apocalypse. You could probably hear, I don't necessarily believe that that's going to happen. My personal opinion is I don't think that this is going to be something to be afraid of, but we want to look into it and see what the team is going to say. So I have a few questions here from people who watch, and they want to know about this EBS signal. Is it the good guy sending it or the bad guy sending it? So we're going to go into those questions now and see what we can get from my team. All right, so the first question I have is from Sarah, and she would like to know if the test EBS broadcast that is happening on October 4th, bless you, Skippy, wow, kitty allergies. Okay, she would like to know if the test EBS alert that's coming out on October 4th, which is just about 2 days from when this is being recorded, is from the good guys or the bad guys. So white hats or black hats. So I'm going to ask my pendulum first. The information I have so far from my pendulum is it's not being instigated by the white hats. It does seem to be instigated by the dark hats. And when I asked for clarification if it's just because it's coming from the FEMA organization, I got yes. So FEMA does have a negative history, a duplicitous history, and of course it's covered up. And so to look at it, it's like you're not going to see that right out front. They display as, being something that's positive or for people when really there's a more nefarious agenda behind FEMA. And since FEMA's putting out the alert, apparently that's what I'm getting from my team, is that there is a negative context. So we want to go deeper into the question. Sarah has more. So her second or follow-up question, that if it was from the negative group, is it just a test or is it meant to cause harm? So let's ask that question. I'm kind of surprised, but I feel like when we're asking questions and we don't have details, I mean, saying bad guys or dark hats or whatever it is, that's a kind of a broader term, right? So, and because FEMA does fall apparently under that category, it comes up as negative. So let's find out if there's any harm intended to happen to people. I need to phrase it in such a way where I can get the clearest answer. So from the highest truth, is there any intended harm to people in the United States with the test of the EBS system by FEMA happening on October 4th, 2023? Is there any intended harm? Yes or no? Clear. So there is a small amount of intended harm, but I'm not getting the big swing that would be like, yes, I'm getting like teeny tiny movement. So I feel like I need to elaborate or ask a different question. Clear. From the highest truth, will the EBS test happening on October 4th, 2023 have any harmful side effects on people? Yes or no? Great. Thank you. Little bit of harm, and I think that's the same thing that you can, what I'm getting is it's not this big scary thing that people are saying. So the harm again is too general. It's like, let me ask if there will be physical harm, because we can ask if it's physical, emotional, mental, spiritual. Let's find out what they've got to say. I'm kind of shocked by this one. I really don't feel anything negative from it, and I'm not getting strong yeses, but it is still saying a little bit yes. So there's something in it. So let me just see if I can keep clarifying. This is really interesting. And I'm going to use the cards too. I just want to start with this. From the highest truth, has the negative plan to intend harm on people been mitigated for the most part? Yes or no? Clear. Thank you. All right. So the intended plan to create harm for people has been mostly mitigated. So there was probably an intention to create more harm. To some degree, it's been mitigated. So it's not as intense or as effective as they want it to be, but there's what I'm getting is they can't say it's zero. So there are some people who are more sensitive to frequency than others. We have different levels of sensitivity. For example, I don't have a microwave in my home. When I get around a microwave, I can feel that kind of energy more than I used to in the past when we lived with one. So now I think I have more of a sensitivity to it, and it could be because I'm aware and I'm like, I know this isn't healthy to have here. And it could be that to a degree, but also you can feel it. You can feel the difference. It's just like when you used to eat a lot of processed food and then you stop eating it and then you get around it or you have a little bit, it's like you can instantly, it's like you're hypersensitive to it. So I get that there are some people who are more sensitive to this than others. And those are the people who would probably feel it the most. Whereas I think the majority of people might not even notice that they're feeling off, right? They wouldn't associate it, at least, with the frequency. So now I want to ask my team. I have more questions from people, but I want to elaborate more. I want to ask, what type of harm were they intending with these frequencies? So let me just get in the deck here with my cards and find out. Okay, so I've got two answers here, and they're really interesting. So the type of harm they were intending was first, it's a mental effect. So this is the Queen of Swords. She represents the mind, and she's in the reverse position. When she's in position, she's at this position. She is an agitated, highly combative, judgmental person. She is not in her fair right mind. So it's like skewing the mind to be more combative, to feel and it was going to be kind of an intense energy. So almost like frequencies intended to agitate and cause people to really kind of take minor issues and start bickering really hard. It's like they're showing me when you have an excess amount of positive ions in an atmosphere, it increases aggression in people. So it's like it's affecting the mind, it's creating more agitation, it's meant to sort of negate compassion and make you more aggressive, more prone to fighting and arguing, and being negatively reactive was one part. And then the other part I get, this is the Four of Swords. So again, mind again. Also, just like you just want to give up. You can't fight anymore. And so it was sort of like a mental irritation and disarm is the idea of kind of just making you feel like I can't keep going. I can't keep fighting this. I'm going to stop fighting. It's not worth fighting. I'm exhausted from this. I'm mentally exhausted. So it is that kind of exhaustion. I want to give up. I want to put my sword down. I don't want to fight this anymore. I'm done. And then at the same time being really just feeling unpleasant mentally and feeling aggressive towards other people, like taking everything personally and taking it wrong and seeing it as an attack, and also wanting to give up at the same time. So it was really the mind is what they're going after, which makes sense. But some people were saying, oh, maybe it'll make you sick. Some people were hypothesizing that maybe it would chemically alter you and make you act in an aggressive way, like maybe zombie-like for some people. And I'm not getting that. I am getting, though, that increase the agitation amongst people and also make you feel like giving up, like don't fight back, don't struggle. So it was meant to make you kind of docile in the same way that fluoride is meant to make you docile and numb and like, blanked out. So it's doing those two things. Sounds nasty. So now I want to go back to my pendulum and ask, will they be successful at making people aggressive or feeling like giving up and resigned and just like, I give up, right? So let's find out. Okay. From the highest truth, will the EBS signal frequencies be successful at making people feel more aggressive, argumentative, and angry, while also making them feel fatigued and wanting to give up? Will they be successful at that? Yes or no? Good news, they will not be successful at that. So that's been mitigated. Whatever that was, the degree to which it was going to happen. And like I said, we had the Queen of Swords, and she would be more progressed. It would be more significant. If it was the King of Swords, it would be extremely significant. It would be like night and day behavior, but just enough where people couldn't place it on this frequency, but enough to make them behave in a more unpleasant and aggressive way. So it was going to be like that, but nothing like super intense where you're like, who are you? That wasn't going to happen, because it would be people would put two and two together. Maybe they'd turn off all their phones. By the way, I forgot to mention, I think this EBS is going to come through television and radio as well. I wonder if it comes through computers. I would assume it would, but I've never seen that, so we'll have to see. So they were going to hit at every angle, but if people could associate that this really bad feeling was coming from this very specific signal, people would do something about it and get rid of it, right? That's, when we're presented with a problem as humans, the first thing we do is try to problem solve. So that wouldn't benefit them to make it so extreme, but it would be intense enough that it would have an impact and cause people to, it's the kind of frequency that would cause people to fight and riot and, kind of seek fights with other people. Okay, so then Sarah had another question kind of following all of that, and wanted to know, will they be following up and doing that frequency again on October 11th? And let's find out. So I don't see that they're going to be running the frequency again on October 11th. Okay, so her follow-up question is, will this frequency cause harm? We talked about that a little bit. I want to ask, so we know it's mental. I was going to ask the pendulum, but we don't need to, because the cards just stated that it's a mental type of attack, it would have been rather. It is not to the degree which it has been hyped up that it's going to be some extreme thing. I think that the reason why people who are putting that kind of fear porn out there, I think why it works is because so many of us want something big to happen. We can all feel the tension rising and building, and we know something big is on the way. It's imminent. And so I kind of feel like that's what's getting used against us, is this anticipation of these bigger events, like really big, something that would be kind of like similar to the pandemic in bigness, where it's like everyone stops and pays attention now because the world just went sideways, right? That kind of big is the feeling that I think people are anticipating, and I feel like that is what is being used against us. And Sarah has more questions, and where she kind of hones in on this, and she wants to know if this is type of fear pandering, I have to choose my words well, type of fear pandering, or just a distraction to keep us focused on something else rather than what we should be focused on. All right, clear. From the highest truth, is this October EBS test merely a distraction by the deep state to keep us focused on something other than what's going on? She nailed it big time. This EBS actually is a distraction by the negative group to keep you from looking at something else. And let's think, what could be going on right now that they'd want us to be distracted from? There's so many things, it's ridiculous. So many different events that are going on where they don't want you paying attention. They want you bickering and squabbling and focusing on some random thing while they let things move through. But I would say the hint is what's going on in Congress right now, what investigations or hearings are going on. I believe there are multiple ones, but that they're saying that's a lot of stuff is coming out over there that they don't want people paying attention to. So if you want to know what they're trying to distract you from, go look at what's on the docket over there and see the conversations they're having, because that is disclosing a lot of information that would help get people up to speed, up to date, help them know what's going on. And the negative group does not want that because, again, they are losing. They're losing really bad. And they don't want people to see it or know it. They want to still portray that they're in a position of control and strength. And so all the things that are going on that they're trying to block people from looking at are showing just how fast their little paradigm is crumbling. Okay, so now we know it's a distraction. We know it was intended to create harm, and that my team will not give me 100% clear. They're like, some people may be affected by this, but it's probably a very small group. Possibly, I'm getting now, could be people who have like pacemakers. Yeek. Something where they're naturally affected by electromagnetic frequencies, right? I believe pacemakers are one of the groups where you've got to stay away from microwaves, I believe. Help me in the comments. Who else is affected naturally by frequencies? Like that they have devices or something that's helping them with their health? That's what I'm getting. So that's why they can't say 100% no harm, because there possibly could be harm. And I don't know how avoidable that is. So also, I've been seeing another trend I've been seeing on Instagram where people are talking about, people who are in situations where they have like secret phones, like for example, domestic violence, where they have a phone that they have hidden that's meant to help them in case of an emergency. And if the person does not turn that phone off, even if it's on silent, even if it's on airplane mode, the alert will come through. And that could put that group in a harmful scenario if that's discovered, right? So some situations where it's like it's out of the hands of the good guys in the way like they can't come in and make those personal choices or fix a personal situation. But in general, it's been mitigated, and that's the good news. Now, Amber had a follow-up question for us about this EBS, and because of what she's heard about, people are talking about, well, certain chemical compounds that have been injected, would that be affected by this frequency? Or certain chemicals that are being sprayed in the air, like the chemtrails that are 40 plus chemicals, will that interact with the frequency and affect us? So let's find out if there's a connection there. So we'll start with the jabby jab first and see if there's any connection there. So I get mostly a no for that. Again, it's like they're showing me that this tiny little percentage of someone who is sensitive, again, sensitive to it. So they're not necessarily saying they definitely interact. For the most part, there's nothing that connect the two when it comes to the jabby jab. But let's find out now if there's any connection to chemtrails and the chemicals they're spraying and this EBS. Clear. I keep getting the same answers. It's like, nope, in general, nothing. However, there's always the exception to the rule. So there's, that's what you've got to watch out for is, are you sensitive to it anyway? Are you sensitive to frequencies? Are you sensitive to the chemicals? If you are, that combination, will affect, could very well likely affect you. There is such a tiny group that may be affected by it, but on the whole, no, it's mitigated again. So for those of us who aren't having already sensitivity, and that's what I'm getting is like, you already know, for the people who it would affect, they're already aware that they're affected either by frequencies, like I said, like pacemakers towards a microwave or something like that. They'd already know, they'd already have the warnings. If there's somebody who has like extreme breathing conditions and they're affected by, chemicals, they would know already. So it's not something where it's going to surprise you and something's going to happen that you don't expect. The people who would be affected by any of this already are aware of their own situations. So for the most of us, not a lot going on there. I want to ask my team now, I want to use the cards and ask them, what is the outcome of having this? And I believe it's in the United States. If I'm wrong, type it in the comments, let me know. I am believing that this is an EBS for the United States. I do not believe it's a global one. I think that they've done EBS tests in different countries that are like the one we're about to have. So my understanding is this is US only. But I want to ask, what are the outcomes for this test? Does anything come out of it that's significant for us? Does something happen that the United States, the citizens of the United States are going to experience collectively? This is wild. It's an interesting outcome. So we got the 5 of Pentacles, or in my deck it's called discs. 5 of Pentacles in the reverse position. Upright, it's called worry, but we're not in that position. We actually feel pretty good about it. So something about what's coming through, maybe it's bringing more people's eyes on it. That's what I think it ends up doing. So remember, the negative group is losing. Are they making their moves? Yes, they are, because they're in the game, right? They have to play their part in this game in order for the game to move forward and resolve itself. They have not opted out of the game, which was a choice they could have made. They didn't make that choice. They're making the choice to play through to the end. They know they're going to lose. This is known by both sides. But just like in chess, the 2 players already know who's going to win. So the losing player has a choice, right? They can opt out and leave the game, or they can play through with the hopes that one of their moves will mess up the winner, and then now it's game on. Here's what we know and what has happened every time they've made their moves. It always ricochets. It is a boomerang that goes the wrong direction for them and the best direction for us. And apparently, whatever the result of this EBS is, it is not one of destruction, is not one of harm, it is not one of, if anything, it might be, that's it. It might not be as exciting as we're all hoping, because again, we're being primed and pumped and distracted to focus on this. And it might just be a big nothing burger, like everything kind of seems to be, because everything gets so hyped during this time period. Because like I said, again, in the back of all of our heads, we feel the imminent big thing coming. So we're always like, is this the big thing? And then someone's like, yeah, it's going to be huge. It's going to be this. And we're like, ooh, right? We're ready. I feel like it's a little bit of a nothing burger in terms of like events happening, but people who weren't paying attention, people who are like, why would we nothing's going on, are suddenly going to be like, what? Why? Why would you need to do that? And maybe it's something that's in the broadcast, like preparing for this. I don't know the wording they're going to use, but whatever it is, everybody's eyes point forward. Everyone's like, okay, now I'm paying attention. And this is what we need. We need the collective, the collective groups in all the countries. We will work together at some point and coordinate. But for now, it's like, we want this homogenized, forward-facing, now I'm paying attention energy. And I feel like this instigates that, because this is a better times are coming. There's like hope is restored. Something bigger happens from this. Again, the intent may have been to scare the bejesus out of you, or to even mess with your mind and scramble you up a little bit, but that's not what happens. Instead, what happens is people start asking more questions and paying more attention, and suddenly people who weren't invested are starting to turn and go, what's happening? And that is a big turn in the right direction. So whatever comes, I kind of feel like it's going to be a nothing burger. And maybe those are my last famous words and it's huge. I don't know. But I get the sense it's more hyped than it's going to be. But it does have this sort of ripple effect of like, okay, now I'm paying attention. Now I have questions. And that's exactly where the good guys need everybody to be. So with that, I hope that this reading finds you well. We're going to find out in 2 days what it's looking like. It's an interesting one, but again, not a scary one. And I'm about to go watch some other psychics that I love to listen to see what they're getting on it. I avoided it because they were all putting their stuff out. And I'm like, oh, I don't want to be influenced. But now I want to go see if we're getting the same messages. So with that, sending you so much love. Mwah. Have a great week, and I will see you in this week's Karma Cards. Bye.